What precisely did you see now again, Mrs. Miller? The statue moved?
A vision over it. It wasn't a statue.
Oh, I see, yes.
I don't believe in the statue moving, a vision.
I see.
But I haven't seen that since.
Yes.
I go up now and I see all kinds of different figures in it.
Yeah.
Every
time you go?
Every time I go. I wouldn't even have to stare. I could even see walking by near enough now.
Yes, love, sorry. Down the front. Yeah.
I never heard so much unadulterated rubbish in all my life.
Really?
In fact, it makes me very sad.
That's that woman now.
That in this day and age, what is wrong with the people of Ireland? That they're so desperate for something that they have to see lumps of concrete moving. And whatever, I suppose...
I felt we were kind of done an injustice in one sense there, because she was in the green room with us, having a great chat, oh yeah, you seen this, you believe that, oh that's brilliant, and I believe in this myself and the whole lot, and we get out, she turns the opposite way and kind of left us all stunned as for an answer, because we were just hopes.
For example, the First Lady said, oh, I never went to look at statues, yet on the way from bingo at 12:15 she goes up to look at a statue. I mean, even if you're a very holy person, that's an unusual thing to do. Usually you want to get in the laba at 12:15.
I felt I was set up, to be honest.
Physics have proved, Gay, that nothing on this earth moves except a force is put to it. Nothing.
Sad one. It's from St. Luke's Hospital, St. Luke's. And it says, Dear Gay and your staff, I hope you can read this because I'm not well. In fact, I have cancer everywhere. And I heard that woman on your show on the wireless, and to tell the truth, I'm praying all my life, but I never heard anything like her. I'm nearly demented, and I'm in here, I get no counselling. I couldn't bear her to be bothered by people like myself, but is there any chance you could get her to give a little talk, just to explain how she got to where she is with the cancer? When I heard her laughing, all I have is sadness. You see, I never missed Mass in my life. I said my prayers always. I tried to live a decent life, and now I have to go, and I'm shaken up with fear and sadness. I hope that woman will hear this, because I'm afraid to sign my name, because my family or friends just don't understand. A sad and depressed, constant listener to your show. And P.S., she says, maybe she's on pills to keep jolly. Are you on pills, Phyllis, to keep you jolly?
No, but I had some for a very short time, and I found that I was just creating another problem for myself. When I went to England at one time to Bristol for some alternative treatment and therapy and help when I was really desperate, I was as bad as that woman. In fact, maybe a lot worse. When I was depressed and down, I didn't have the strength to write to you, for example.
Really?
At least she's got that. And when I first heard about it, my depression was absolute. The shock is incredible. There seems to be terrible connotations in the word cancer. But of course, as I've progressed, or regressed, depending on how you look at it, I've discovered there's much, much worse things you could have than cancer. Like, I'd prefer to have cancer, say, than chronic arthritis or very serious heart disease. Because cancer is one of these things, there's an unknown quantity there. The number of people who have cancer who are, say, only going to live 6 months or a year, and they're walking around 8 years later, 10 years. I know one woman 11 years in England because of her fierce optimism and positive thinking. At least that's how it appears to be.
What were the early symptoms of your cancer, and what kind of cancer have you?
Yes, I have a type of cancer called leiomyosarcoma, and it's usually a cancer of bone and muscle, and I have it in the soft tissue area, and it has the unfortunate thing that it is very difficult to control once secondaries begin to appear. Originally, I had a hysterectomy during the menopause, and it had... When I was all finished the operation and going to be discharged, they found that I had the laboratory results showed that there was some malignancy. And that really was, even though it's become much worse since, that was the shock. In fact, I've never had any bother from the actual disease so much as the state of mind you get into. So it took me at that time about 3 months of utter desperate grief and hysterics and rage and an inability to sleep. I'd go to bed and I'd wake up in the small hours of horror, and then it was so bad that eventually I used to be saying, oh, why me? Or why did I get it? And then one night my husband, he said his wit's end, I suppose, trying to work and coming home to this depressed household. So one night he said to me, why shouldn't it be you? Why should it be somebody else down the road? And that really was a turning point, and I began to look at it that way. And then I was very, very busy because I had a guest house in Danes and Rathgar, which I was building up, and to become a grade A guest house. I was terribly interested in this, and it was a marvellous discipline of having to get on with the job I was doing. So I went on then for about three years then. I had some complications that are not relevant here. But after then, last March then, I had really forgotten about it when suddenly I became unwell again. And I had a scan and it showed some very large tumours had grown. And then I had those operated on, and they were taken away, and then I went through 6 months of chemotherapy, which really was a nightmare. Now, some people, I saw people in the same ward as I was, and they skipped home happily. It didn't affect them as it affected me dreadfully. The nausea and the sheer misery of it was awful. And then I went through that for 6 months, and at the end of the 6 months, unfortunately, it had no effect. I had another 3 or 4 tumours had grown. And I had them removed and more surgery, and then I have been having 6 weeks of radiotherapy in St. Luke's. I only finished those last week. So one hopes that there is this attitude abroad that positive thinking and a cheerful state of mind does help to prolong one's life.
And do you reckon it does?
Well, I have seen other people. I find my emotions, my intelligence tells me that it does, but it's very difficult to believe it emotionally. One of the most marvellous things I did is I went to Bristol, to the Bristol Cancer Help Centre, and that really was quite marvellous because there were people there. There was one woman, a London Cockney lady, Katrina Collins, who was walking around 11 years later and who even refused to have surgery in the beginning, you know. And she's unusual in that she's a fearfully disciplined woman, you know. She is on a strict vegetarian diet and she goes in for relaxation and meditation. Now, certainly I know that what I learned in Bristol really helped me to cope, you know. I came back, even when the day I went to Bristol, I went through London, I cried. I couldn't stop crying. One wonders where you get so many tears. I was crying on the train. It was embarrassing. I was crying when I got into the taxi. And when I got into the taxi driver, I couldn't even tell him where I wanted. He said, I know what you want. Because he used to pick up lots of people for the Bristol Cancer Help Centre on a Sunday, the courses a week. And he said, if it's any consolation to you, he said, the people I pick up here, I don't recognise them when they're on their way back.
Yeah, really helpful.
Yes, the taxi driver. It was lovely. Yes, it really was.
And was it true?
Oh, it was.
In your case, too,
it was absolutely. It was
and what did they
incredible.
do for you in Bristol? I know something about the place, but I know it's positive thinking. I know it's diet, all of that.
Well, the first I'd ever heard speak of it was Luke Kelly, but I don't think he ever went there eventually, as far as I know. And they do tell me also they have about 2 Irish people a week who go there. They do an awful lot of counselling, which isn't as fancy as the word, man. It's just talking to psychologists and doctors and counsellors, and you just talk. You're taught to relax and to meditate, and these were things which I always associated with hippies in the 60s, and I found it absolutely remarkable, you know, to learn to relax it's good for people who are even in there full of their health, and I found this marvellous, and I sometimes have a bad day when I'll break down and cry, but very seldom now, very, very seldom.
But you're not in pain, Phyllis.
This is the incredible thing. I have no pain at all. The only misery I have would be from the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy, which isn't so bad. The side effects.
Did you lose your hair?
Completely, yes. It was very dramatic. I lost it. I thought it would come out in little bits, but I lay down feeling dreadfully sick one night and fell asleep, and I woke up because I can't bear cats, and I said, God, there's a cat in the room. I saw this great lump of grey thing. It was all my hair. It had come out that dramatically in one huge bunch.
It's gone back now.
So I've left them with little squiggly bits, so I just pulled them out and made myself bald. But of course, as I didn't look like Meryl Streep or some of these beautiful women, it looked fairly ghastly, and I got a wig. And the wig really was an eventful time. I couldn't bear it on my head. And one day I was driving along in the car and I was at traffic lights. There was another man beside me with kids. I couldn't bear it. It was a very hot day, and I took off the wig and threw it on the dashboard. And the children, I think, it was the biggest event of their lives to see this headless creature. Yes, yes.
Well, it's back now. It's lovely, lovely head of hair indeed. Yeah. How do you pay how much to the centre in Bristol? And
you pay £475 for the week, and you don't need any pocket money because you have nothing at all to spend it on. I'm a newspaper-aholic, if there's such a thing, but even there in the week I didn't even bother to get the newspapers. So you just need your plane fare to Bristol and so it costs you about $5.50. And they have a fund for anyone who cannot really afford it. They have a fund that people contribute to. It is a charity. It's non-profit making.
And did they put you on a vegetarian diet?
They did, a very strict one, Guy.
And you're still on it?
No, I'm afraid not. I've never been. I was listening to you with amusement at even the rotation diets. I've never been very good with. I'm afraid I'm a glutton for food. And I'd rather die than never have an Indian curry again, or a rasher or something like that. No, or a mashed spuds with butter. And
my goodness, I would have thot you were a very disciplined person.
No, not regarding food, no.
So, is it true that you drew up a sort of a balance sheet when you sat down to think about your situation, to see the good things?
Yes. Well, when I was really upset in the beginning, I couldn't do anything like that. But after Bristol, I was able to be constructive, I suppose is the word. And I would draw up a balance sheet and say, well, now, I'm 53, and if I haven't got many years left, I've got all these marvellous things. I would make a balance sheet and look at them in writing, and all the marvellous people I've met and all the good things I've done. And then I'd put down the bad things, and they balanced out, really, that I've had a very good life,
Is there an outstanding regret? I mean, sorry, let me take you back.
Yes.
You reckon you're going to die?
Yes.
Within what?
Well, I don't know. I certainly won't see 60. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that would be a miracle if I saw 60.
That's 7 years.
Yes, I'd be delighted if I saw that. That would be a miracle. Yes.
And are you doing anything now in the next 7 years to redress any balance of what you suddenly realized if you were going to die in 3 months or something that you would have left undone?
Well, I've never slacked off doing things. I'm involved in so many things that I had a business, but of course I've had to dispose of that.
Yes, but is there anything you put off doing that you say, well, now I'm going to do it?
Not really. I work terribly. No, I love work. No, I can't. To me, work is a holiday, I am not. I've never would think now, say, of touring the world or anything like that.
Something like that.
No. I've seen as many places as I want to see. And no.
I'm thinking something like a luxury cruise or something.
No, I wouldn't dream of it, even if
it's not your thing.
No. I'd hate it. I couldn't bear it.
You were a nurse, you see. How long were you a nurse?
I was 3 years.
Oh, was that all?
That's all, yeah. Late in life, yeah. I did, I lived in England, you see, for most of my life,
Yeah. And originally, where are you from?
Tipperary, South Tipperary. I come from a farming background in South Tipperary.
And how old are your 2 children now?
3 I have, Gay. I have a son of 30 and a daughter of 27 and a little one of 13.
You're married twice?
Yes, that's right.
Now,
yes.
When you go back over it, do you think, just as you think your intelligence tells you that to stay optimistic and smile and so on, that will wear this cursed thing down, whatever it is, do you subscribe to the idea that the cancer cells going wrong in your body or becoming cancer cells is also self-triggering, and that some way in your life or in your mind you trigger them yourself?
Well, when I say do I believe it, yes, my intelligence tells me. When I look around and the people I've met, that I've had chats with about it, they seem, no doubt, to be the kind of people. Like, for example, there are people who die with certain categories of mental patients, and who never develop cancers, but they have been found, say, for example, on post-mortems, to have had cancerous cells and cancerous tumours in their body, which have never proliferated and never caused them to be ill or to die from it. They've died from something else, maybe committed suicide or something. And there tends to be a kind of profile of cancer patients developing. Now, several books that I've read from America seem to think that there is a typical cancer patient.
Which is?
That they tend to be doormats, people who've always done everything for everybody, who've never learned to say no. In fact, one American lady sent me a book which was Say No Without Feeling Guilty. And I don't know if there is any proof of this. I couldn't tell you that. But there certainly seems to be some proof of people who, having got the cancer, have fought it with positive thinking. There's no doubt about that. I mean, Simonton's a husband and wife team in Texas. He was a conventional surgeon and she was a psychologist. And they now spend most of their lives in Austin in Texas dealing with people and teaching them positive thinking and a thing called imagery, where you put all the powers of your positive thinking onto the imaginary, where you think the tumors are, and you use an imaginary device to push them out of your body. Say, with you can take your own imagery. It might be a fish who swallows them all up or something. But you have to be very disciplined to do these kind of things, you know.
You want to take a little drink, I want to take a commercial break. Come back to us. I am talking with Phylis Mcghee, and what would you say, Phyllis, to the woman who wrote to us? You know, it's so terribly hard to talk, to say anything to her that, you know, I've never missed Mass in my life. I've said my prayers. I try to live a decent life, and now I have to go.
Yes.
And I'm shaken up with fear and sadness.
Yes. Well, I had a cousin, a nun in Carrick-on-Shore, a most marvellous Christian, holy, good lady. Everything about her was good. She was saint-like. And she died with cancer. I would say to her, it's got nothing to do with whether you're religious or you're irreligious. There are very good irreligious people and very good religious people, and vice versa. Quite. I don't think one of the things about religious people is religion seems to be a supplicant kind of thing. You know, they expect the God that they love to look after them. And you see, I have that advantage. I have nobody to blame. I don't say to anybody, I believe it is a physiological thing. It's like trees in the forest. Some are like the oaks down in Wicklow. They're there for hundreds of years. And other people, other trees die as saplings. And, I mean, I'm a hairy old sapling now, but however, I feel very young. And I would say to her that this is a period she will go through. It's like a bereavement, that the terribly sad period is like an acute illness. And then she will get out of that. All of the crying is obviously very good. But eventually she will get to a sort of oasis in this desert of misery, because that's what it is. It is quite horrific. And that she must talk to people. You know, she must pick a friend and talk about it. Don't hide it, you know. I went, in the beginning, I didn't find it easy to talk about it, because all you could do was cry. And people do get tired of it, because other people have their problems.
Of course.
But to get one person and to talk about how she feels, and she'll find that terrible crying period, it will end. It will end, the sadness. And then you go into a quiet sadness. Because life... you see, nobody is happy except lunatics, you know. I'm often amazed at people who are very religious, and they always expect to be happy. In fact, I often see it on your show when people write in about, I can't find happiness. There's no such thing as absolute happiness. We're very lucky if we get a little bit of happiness and mostly contentment. But I would say to her that she will, it is inevitable that she will stop crying, and she will find, and I would recommend that she reads, there is one book called Gentle Giants by a woman called Penny Bron, B-R-O-H-N. It's on sale. I think all the bookshops in Dublin have it. And it's an excellent book to read. And that Penny Bron was a woman who had cancer nearly all over her body. Well, she was in Bristol when I was there. She came for a day. And I mean, she's in apparently perfect health. And she puts it all down to positive thinking. So there really are so many people around.
What do you mean by positive thinking?
By positive thinking, I mean, yes, it sounds very fairy, that you believe. For example, if 99% of people die with a particular kind of cancer, you must make yourself believe you will be that 1%.
That will miss.
That will miss. That you're not interested in what the books say. That by believing, by keeping being busy, that's one thing. Eating well, taking exercises, and learning to meditate. For example, totally relaxing yourselves. Women who have had babies, and in antenatal clinics it's often taught. And imagining yourself in a beautiful place, in a river or a meadow or something, and utterly resting your body and your mind completely, blotting out everything except this imaginary paradise that you're in, and believing that this good feeling is possible to dominate the cancer and is more powerful than chemotherapy or radiotherapy.
And then generally through the day to be uncomplaining, to be positive rather than complaining, and to be happy rather than sad. And
that's right, but if you are sad, you can't pretend you're happy. So if you are sad, cry and say, I feel rotten, I feel sad. And when you're with your family, to prevent them, allow them to help you and to be kind to you. Allow them. Everybody wants to be kind. It's one of the things. Most people are extremely kind. And don't brush that aside. And when you are sad, don't be ashamed to be a moaner for a while. You're entitled to be. And to cry and tell that person how you do feel. Because eventually, if you repress it, that only causes further problems. And if you... Otherwise, you will definitely, she will cross that. It's like a milestone.
As I said to you, though, on the telephone, Phyllis, at least this woman, it's not much consolation, or maybe it's a great deal of consolation, I do not know, but writing from St. Luke's Hospital, and she writes in a very depressed state.
Yes.
At least she has the consolation of expecting something after she snuffs it.
Yeah, well, yes, of course. It's extremely important for people who have a religion that they believe that their Maker is waiting to welcome them. Of course, it's very important. I would never think otherwise.
But not for you, Phyllis.
But it's not for me. I can't pretend to believe in something I don't believe in. I just don't.
Did you ever believe?
I cannot ever remember believing, Gay. Firmly, no. I remember... When I went to the national school, I remember making my first communion, and I loved the joy. We had a lovely teacher and bring us into the confession box and telling us how to play. I loved getting into this little dark box. And then she told us how to get communion. She was giving us little bits of cream crackers. And she was a lovely lady, and I loved it. It was like playing house. But I can't say, and I loved getting new clothes for my first communion. But I can't say I ever remember believing.
No, very few kids would, but I mean, did you go on to confirmation then?
Oh,
did you practice your religion, all of that?
Oh, yes, indeed.
So when
I was
did you...
married in the Catholic Church originally, yes.
But you still never remember actually believing. You went through the forms of the thing, but never...
Yes, never remember having this tremendous faith. Maybe there were times when I had a half thought it, but I never ever remember having a really fervent faith that I believed there was somebody up there who would help me. No, I don't ever remember that day.
And is it that you don't believe in a personal God, i.e. the chap with the long white beard, with benevolence and so on, with a sort of a ledger in his hand, or do you believe in any kind of providence?
No, I don't. No. I believe that we are controlled entirely by nature. And like the trees or the flowers, no, I don't believe in anything, no. I believe that when I die, I will melt away. In fact, it's these religious people who talk about ashes to ashes, but I truly believe that I will just melt away in the soil from which I've been made, and that's all. And I like that idea. I don't particularly... Eternity doesn't appeal to me, Gay.
What doesn't it?
Eternity.
Eternity doesn't appeal.
No. Like I said to you the other day, I could end up there sitting beside Mary Kenny or someone equally horrific.
Well, I'm sure there is a provision for shifting seats around in the place in case you end up beside Mary Kenny. I mean,
yes.
I'm sure they take.
They'd want an awful lot of seats, Gay.
Well, they would indeed, yes. And the thought of spending an awful long time to the sound of Irish harps doesn't exactly attract me greatly either. But there you are. I suppose everybody's thing. I can well understand. You see that there is not that nonsense.
Yes.
That kind of thing. Although an awful lot of people do, Phyllis.
They do, and very clever people. Very clever people. It always amazes me. You see, I have a simple view of things. I can only look upon. There's much more evidence for my standpoint than there is for the other standpoint. I mean, all the billions and billions and billions that have died, I mean, where are they going to sit? Where are they going to be? I mean, who's going to feed them and who's going to love them and care for them? And what happens for people who've had a couple of husbands? Who's Elizabeth Taylor going to sit with? I mean, she's entitled to be happy as much as you or I.
Indeed, she is. She always swap around amongst them all.
Yes, you see.
But those 3 squares a day, right enough. I never consider that aspect of it. I suppose somebody has to serve all that.
Yes.
So it's all gone as far as you're concerned.
Yes, I don't believe in it. I'm happy that way. I would find it a great a great strain. I mean, after all, I find it very difficult to believe that a merciful God would have allowed to happen what happened in Germany between 1939 and 45. And people will always come up with God gives you free will. But equally so, he had a power to intervene when some of his gentlest and best creatures on this earth, that they claim to be, were allowed to be disposed of like so many insects.
Or Enniskillen.
Or Enniskillen, exactly.
Or wherever.
Or wherever. I mean, to me, I cannot understand. I mean, I love people who are different from me. I find them fascinating. And to think that even in our own country that people can actually take a gun. I mean, considering the efforts I have made to prolong my life and would go on doing, and the marvellous doctors that have helped me in what they've done, and they have been fantastic. And to think that my fellow man will take up a gun and in 2 seconds obliterate my Protestant neighbour, my God, I don't understand it. And this is a country, again, which is with strong religious tradition.
Yes, well, that precise thought was expressed by Father Peter Lemass in his interview with me when he had this awful, he got over the brain tumour, and then something developed an allergy in him, and he ended up, Father Peter Lemass, you think, as you say, you think you're bad. He ended up literally being held together in a net bag because all of the skin of his body fell off, fell off. Yeah. And he was actually lying in a sort of hammock, which was the only thing he could lie in. And he was listening to the wireless regularly, and these stories of atrocities and shootings and killings and maimings and bombings. And he had exactly the same thought. Look at all the trouble and bother and time and expense being put into keeping me alive by these teams of superb people.
That's right.
And yet somebody can obliterate somebody in a bomb or a bullet or
it's unbelievable. For a cause. For a cause.
Some idiot cause.
Well, I've always been lucky. I have an internationalist outlook, you know.
What's that?
People all over the world, I mean, the idea of United Ireland or killing somebody to get United Ireland is abhorrent to me. I don't think it's worth the life of one child. After all, there's a million of us over in England. I went to England when I wanted to earn my living. And while there may be an unhappy state of relations between us in this current week, I still think that for all the damage they did, as they've also done us an awful lot of good. There are so many of us who are integrated into British society. We're talking about Father Peter Lemass. There is a man now who, in his attitudes to life, I mean, if every Christian was like Peter Lemass, there'd probably be very few atheists like me. And the man was spectacular. I knew him. In fact, the last time I was with him last Ash Wednesday, we were down outside the American Embassy, and I have no doubt if he was alive today, he would be down there with me as well, because when you talk about human beings caring about one another, tomorrow is the vote in the Congress in America to give further aid to the Contras against the people of Nicaragua. Now, if I was to think that there was a merciful God up there whom President Reagan says he believes in, surely he would inspire him to allow the lovely, good people of Nicaragua to build their little country and feed their hungry and teach their children to read and write and stop funding savages to beat them into the ground. That would be my idea, that there was an evidence of an almighty God.
And you will be down there tomorrow, will you?
Oh, indeed I will.
And Peter would have been with you?
Oh, most decidedly. He was a man who... his idea of the gospel was to minister to the poor.
Indeed it was.
Yeah.
Here in Ballyfermot, and then he wanted to go away, and he did, and it's only because of the old, the headache that he came back.
That's right. I was at his funeral. I was at it both days. Yes,
a lot of suffering.
I thought the great tribute to him was, I gave up counting. I saw 220 priests and 5 bishops, and Mick O'Riordan, the head of the Communist Party of Ireland. That was the ultimate compliment, I thought, you know, that this gentle man could have attracted such a diversity of human beings,
Do you think that's a stupid question, but I'll put it out anyway. Do you think, Phyllis, you might change your mind about Holy God now before you die?
Not a chance, not a chance. No,
you've resolutely decided not to, no matter what happens, you see.
Well, I haven't decided, no, because, see, there is one thing, Gay, just supposing that I snuffed it. You see, you must realize, Gay, I know I'm going to live a little while. You haven't any idea, have you?
Right.
I mean, you could drop dead today and I'd be at your funeral.
Right.
But
it wouldn't surprise me.
Yes, but supposing that I did die an unbeliever, and that I was wrong, and there was a God. Well, surely he'll give me a bit of shelter. I never refused shelter to anyone in my life.
If you die an unbeliever. No, it's better to die a believer.
But the
Terry Rogers would tell you it's better to die a believer. He's worked this out.
Oh yes, I know. Well, then I'm not a betting person. I never gamble, Gay. All I know is that I have never refused shelter to anyone in my life. However rough and dirty they were at my door, even that one down and out used to come into me when I had the guest house in Rathgar. And I'd always give him something. So one night he came to the door with a lovely little miniature tree and a plant, and to thank me. And I was so overwhelmed with this. And suddenly, my God, they were out of my own window box. He nicked them out of it.
Very good.
And I let him yell out of me, and the poor fella, he didn't come to me again for months, and I felt terrible. I'd run him out of his patches, yeah. So that I'm sure that if I was the one who was wrong, I'm sure he'd give me a little niche shelter somewhere on one of those seats.
I'm trying to remember the theological justification for that, and I think it is that if you didn't believe in him, he wouldn't.
That's a lot of codology, Gay. The church always make up things as they go along.
Well, you see, they have a lot of experience in these.
When I was a child, you couldn't eat meat on a Friday. I thought it was daft.
I remember.
What was the point of not eating meat on a Friday? An awful lot of people didn't have any meat any day of the week.
Yes.
So there's a lot of nonsense.
Yes.
I do remember once coming home to my grandmother, asking her, we had learned in school about false gods, and I asked her, she had the Sacred Heart on the wall, and I think Saint Philomena, I can't remember. Actually, I'm Phyllis, that was my patron saint, but she's no longer a saint. Now they found that she ran a house of ill repute or something.
Probably heard about you.
But yes, I know, but my grandmother, I remember, was horrified at this idea that I thought, I misunderstood, and I thought the Sacred Heart was a false god, but she wasn't having any of that nonsense. She was a very devout lady. So, I hope that he'd give me a little niche of shelter if he was there, but...
Okay, well, those who do believe in him will no doubt put a word in for you.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay. I know I've got loads of cards and mass cards and things from very good people, and it's very kind. I got hundreds, actually, and it's very nice.
If it's not all about what you're actually doing and have done all of your life, it's not about anything. Anyway, if you find a change of mind or if you have anything further to say to us between then and now or whatever, would you let us know?
I certainly will, Gay, and thank everybody for all their cards and letters and mass cards. And the doctors, they have been so kind. I mean, that's a form of therapy, is to talk to the doctors and tell them how you're feeling, because they've always been. I have the doctors in Vincent's and Luke's, so good to me. I mean, even when during my bad period, you tend to ring up sometimes, and it's just maybe a pain in your head, and you think, oh, it's a brain tumour, I'm going to be gone tomorrow. And they've x-rayed it for me, and they've comforted me and reassured me. So they've been very good, I must say. Marvellous.
Okay, then. Thank you for coming in. I suppose to say, God bless you, be all the questions.
No, not at all. I like the expression.
All right. Well, then, God bless you.
Thank you, Gay, very much.
You.
On Saturday, February the 3rd, 1990, Mammy was in St. Vincent's Hospital, Dublin, recovering from a minor surgery connected with her cancer. She turned on her radio. Breaking news was the announcement that the South African government had lifted the ban on the ANC and would release Nelson Mandela in the next few days. She was ecstatic. She was part of the anti-apartheid movement since the 60s in London, when the political establishment viewed Nelson Mandela and the ANC as terrorists. Now she was in a room in St. Vincent's, with none of her activists to celebrate with. She went out in the corridor to share her joy with the nurses. Within minutes, she had experienced a massive fatal heart attack. Eleanor arrived to visit as they were using the defibrillator on her. The suddenness of her passing was a shock to all of us, even though we had been preparing for this day for a number of years. She had always said, given a choice, that was how she would like to go out. Mammy once sent a postcard to Irish folk singer Christy Moore with the profound words of Martin Niemöller, a German pastor who opposed the Nazis during the Second World War. Christy put the words to the song Yellow Triangle, which he dedicated to my mother's memory. In April 2011, I attended Christy's concert in the London Festival Hall. 21 years after her passing, Christy starts to talk about Mammy on the stage and how looking at that postcard turned itself into a song which he began to sing. Listening to it was probably the proudest moment of my life.
Every day, and eventually it turned itself into a song. And tonight her son, Richie Lanigan, is here. So Richie, this is especially for you. Fetch the people who were members of trade unions. I did not speak. They took away the Bible stews. They rounded up the homosexuals, and they gathered up the immigrants and the gypsies. Red triangle,